Habit number 5 for more interesting photos is to slow down. Take your time. This is something I need to remember all the time. I'm often, when I take a photo, really excited. I've got it. I feel good about it. And then I'm moving on to the next photo before I took enough time to make sure that I had gotten all the elements and options of that one subject I could. Did I walk around it? Did I get above it, below it, closer, farther away? Did I explore all the different ways I could take that picture of that one subject? Also, I want to make sure that the photo is sharp and in focus, so I need to zoom in on the back of my camera and double check that everything is sharp and in focus, because that's something I can't change in software. I can't make the photo sharper with software. So I have to take another picture if it's not sharp and in focus. So slowing down is important. Seeing all the things. Often I am drawn to the most obvious photo, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes there's a more interesting photo in something that might be easily overlooked. And in slowing down, you can see some of those things. You can see light interacting in a different way with the subject. You can see ordinary subjects get transformed if you look at them in just a certain way by slowing down. Taking your time, not rushing. And I'm not talking about, taking an hour to take pictures. I have what I call a 2-minute rule. If I'm looking at the back of my camera and I'm not quite super excited yet, I think to myself, well, let's take 2 more minutes with this to see if I can get a better photo. See if I can get something I am more excited about, more interested in, and that other people hopefully will enjoy as well. But remember, if you're not interested in it, if you're not excited by the photo that you're seeing on your screen, no one else probably will be either. So slow down, take your time, just a little extra time, and you'll generally get much more interesting photos.
One example of slowing down is spending some time in one place that you may be familiar with and looking for photos. So I'm going to spend about 10 minutes here in the Student Union building and show you around, show you my process of looking for interesting photos as I'm spending 10 minutes in this one place that we're all pretty familiar with. So I've got the camera set up on a tripod here and wandering around the Student Union building looking for some interesting photos. You see I'm moving a little fast. I've done this a few times, so I kind of know where the photos are. And one of the most probably interesting things is some of these chairs. And I'm going to head over there and look at this chair that's against the wall in just a second. Let's speed things up a little bit. I know that's kind of interesting in talking about slowing down. But we're going to speed things up. And here's a photo of that chair. Single chair sitting against the wall there by itself, which can be interesting if you frame it correctly. Went down to the other end of the Student Union and saw some balloons up at the ceiling, some graduation balloons left over probably from a couple days earlier, just hanging out on the ceiling. So sometimes, remember, look up as you're slowing down. Another thing, I'm taking lots of pictures. In this 10 minutes, I think I took about 30 or 40 photos. And that's one way to find the better photos. This photo of the rail. It's kind of interesting, not super duper, but it's okay. Try different perspectives, getting lower and taller. Looking outside here at some chairs outside. It had rained a little bit, so there's some water drops on the chair arm. And I thought that was kind of interesting, an interesting shape and texture, kind of abstract, a little different. Again, I'm looking at that single chair again. I was trying some different framings. Didn't find anything I loved. Over here, I'm looking at another chair. The light was hitting the 4 holes in the chair, kind of interesting, but again, nothing that I thought was super. Using the table here as a foreground element to lead you into the chairs. And then 10 minutes later, we are done. So slow down, go to a familiar place, try different things, sit still, There's lots of different ways to slow down and keep yourself from moving on too quickly before you find all the interesting photos. Another element in slowing down when you're taking photos is when you're done taking the photos, slow down and check that the photos are sharp. Sharpness is not something we can fix in software. We can't make a photo that's blurry or out of focus, in focus and sharp with software. So you got to get it right in the camera. And one thing to be aware of when you're looking at the screen on the back of your camera or your phone is the small screens lie a little bit. Here's what they lie about. They lie about sharpness. It looks sharper when it's small than when you zoom in. So the thing you have to do in slowing down when reviewing your photos is to zoom in. So you want to check that the photo is sharp. So one of the things to double check with sharpness is to zoom in on your camera screen to make sure that the photo is sharp. When you're zoomed out at this small view, details are hidden, so you won't see the actual sharpness or lack of it in your photo. So you need to zoom in. On cameras, every camera does that a little bit differently. On this camera, I zoom in using this wheel. And then as I move over here a little bit, you'll see that these numbers over here, these numbers are a little soft. They're not quite in focus. So what you need to do is then double check your photos. So I'm going to zoom out. I do have one that's sharp. Let's go to that one. This one's sharp. So if I zoom in here, those same numbers on the shutter speed wheel are now nice and sharp. So that's how you check that on a camera. I'm going to show you next how to check this on a phone. But again, double check your photos, make sure they're sharp before you leave, especially if it's something that is only going to happen once or be really complicated to recreate. Make sure it's sharp before you leave by zooming in on the image to check detail. So on a phone, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to double check sharpness by zooming in. And most phones, the way you zoom in is really simple. You're just going to have your image on screen and then you're going to pinch to zoom. So you can zoom in and move around and double check sharpness. Because again, this is something we can't fix in software. If this is soft or not sharp, I can't fix it with software. It's just a blurry photo. And since I grade on that, make sure you check that all your photos are nice and sharp and in focus, because we can't fix it with software. Take a little bit of time, slow down, and double check before you leave that all of your photos are sharp and in focus.